about to hear one of my favorite speakers. So, as a chiropractor, as any doctor, we should always be striving to better ourselves, right? I mean, we are in charge of helping to guide you through this process of health. It can be pretty confusing, pretty frustrating, can be pretty daunting at times. So we have to constantly challenge ourselves to get better and better and better and just be that more on top of our game. That can be difficult to do. It can be difficult to motivate ourselves, to continue to do better and grow. And one of the people that is just instrumental in my growth is the person you're going to hear tonight. So even though we're about the same age, I sort of look to him as almost like a mentor in a way, just because of his passion for health, okay, his passion for his craft. Okay, so when we talk about chiropractic, we say it's a philosophy, a science, and an art. And this person is definitely an artist. Okay, he takes his craft seriously, and he's just got such a gift and such a big heart for what he does. So it's my honor to introduce our speaker tonight, and that's Dr. Derek Cohen.
Thanks, buddy. That's nice. All right, good evening. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for that awesome introduction. I appreciate that. I'm excited to share this information with you guys tonight because this is the 7th workshop that we've had in this Body Signal series. And so far, I think a lot of lives have been changed from the information that we've covered. So I'm really excited to share this with you. And I really want to keep up that transformation that's occurring here in the office and with the people that come to these workshops. We've covered a variety of topics. For those of you that haven't been here, we've covered headaches, we've covered neck pain, digestive issues, sleep issues, we've covered allergies and atopic disorders. We even talked about shoulders and upper extremity issues and hip problems and lower extremity issues. And tonight we're going to talk about ergonomics and decreasing the stress that you experience in your workplace. And what you have to understand about this is that all of these symptoms that we've been talking about, these body signals that we've been talking about, they are not just associated with workplace ergonomics, but they're quite often workplace ergonomics is the cause of these problems, right? So I want to talk to you about the habits that we see or the habits that people are going through each day that are causing a lot of the problems we see here in the office and why that's important to you, and also how we can start to reduce the stress that we have on our physical structure by changing some of those habits so we can experience our body's full health potential and have more energy, more productivity, a higher amount of output at the end of the day rather than going home tired and exhausted, right? So tonight's a discussion about ergonomics, and so I had to look up exactly what does the word ergonomics mean, right? How do you define ergonomics? So what I found, and the best description I found, is that ergonomics is basically it's a discipline that's concerned with how a human being interacts with their environment in order to optimize their human well-being and to optimize their performance. Okay, how awesome is that? So optimize their well-being and their performance. So what does that sound like to you? If you spend any time in this office, what does that sound like? Does that sound like what we're talking to you about all day, every day in this office? We want to optimize your well-being. We want to optimize your performance. Who else wants that? Am I in the right room? Do we all want that?
Absolutely.
Great. So let's talk about that tonight. So Body Signals Workshop. So we've been telling you throughout this workshop, what have we been talking about? Is that symptoms are signals from our body that there's a bigger problem going on, right? So tonight we're going to focus on reducing the physical stress on your body by improving your workplace ergonomics and by correcting the postures and the habits that are creating so many of the symptoms that we see. Okay, because we all have symptoms, right? Everybody has some sort of symptom, right? So we need to address those because your body is talking to you, right? Your body is talking to you throughout the day through rapid feedback. Your body is talking to you, right? Are you listening to it? How well are you listening to your body, right? Because I think that many of us don't listen to our body, right? Or we ignore our body, or we like to cover up what our body is saying. So we need to start listening to it. Okay, so what direction are you headed? All right, so why is it so important that we talk about this tonight? Why is it so important that we share this information with you? I think because over time, over the years, we've forgotten to move, right? We grow up, and we go to school, right? We get jobs, and eventually we sit, right? We sit for hours on end, days on end, right? Years on end. We sit, we squirm, we shift, we groan. We just sit all day long, and all that sitting stress, it creates more stress in our body, and it disrupts our body's homeostasis. So what that means is it disrupts our body's ability to find balance. All right, so we no longer have balance in our body, and our bodies today are breaking down, right? They're breaking down through obesity, through diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure. Our bodies are breaking down because we're not listening to them, and we're constantly stressing them, right? And they say, the research shows that the average American, through basically their lifestyle, through sitting, through working, commuting to work, sitting at the computer at home, sitting on a couch, eating, leisure time, we spend about 21 sedentary hours a day not doing anything for the average American. So that means and that includes sleeping too. And so there's 3 hours a day where we're actually active. It's only 3 hours out of 24 that we're actually active. And up to 13 hours a day is just sitting. So 13 hours a day, all we're doing is sitting, and the research shows that that is wreaking havoc on our health. Okay, so I want to read you guys a couple of things here. So an Australian study reveals that sitting at work leads to more sitting at home and eventually obesity. So don't we want to have a healthy, vibrant workforce? Don't we want to be one of those people? A New Zealand study shows that workers who sat for long periods of time were more likely to get deep vein thrombosis. And researchers from the University of Queensland found that for every hour a person sits watching television, life expectancy drops 22 minutes. So an hour that you sit watching TV, your life expectancy drops 22 minutes. So in terms of health and mortality, that's equivalent to smoking 2 cigarettes. Okay, so sitting is the new smoking. You've heard us say that, but here's the research that shows why sitting is the new smoking. So daily exercise is not enough to counteract excessive sitting. So I had a patient the other day say to me, well, I'm really active and I work out all the time, so even though I sit for 8 to 10 hours a day, I'm okay, right? Well, here it is. Daily exercise is not enough to counteract excessive sitting. If you're physically inactive, you are at a significant risk. However, if you are physically active, you are still at a high risk. And your key fat burners shut off the minute that we sit. So every 2 hours spent just sitting reduces your blood flow, it raises your blood sugar, and it drops your good cholesterol levels by 20%. And finally, excessive sitting is cited as a key risk factor in 4 of the top 7 U.S. killers: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and cancer. Okay, so sitting is also linked to obesity and early mortality rates, regardless of how much exercise a sitter gets. So, why is this important? Because your job is killing you, right? Literally, your job is killing you. So it's important that while we're at work, we really do our best to counteract all the stress that we're putting on our body so that we can decrease our stress. We can improve our productivity. We can improve how we feel when we get home. We can improve how we feel while we're at work, and we can create a healthier, longer lifespan. Yeah, there'll be an opportunity to sit. It's a great question. I know. I'm watching all of you sit here go, oh, I can't handle this. I can't handle this. So, but we do. At work, we spend about 75% of our time sitting in front of a computer, right? And, we're sitting in front of a computer, putting our bodies in these weird Tetris block positions, trying to get comfortable, for the most part, not moving, right? And all of that creates the stress that we're talking about. So in our office, how many pictures are you guys here? Do you see yourself up here? We see people come in with issues like headaches and neck soreness, shoulder stiffness, back pain, eye strain, right? Repetitive strain, general muscle pain. These are all the things that we see. About a quarter of the U.S. workforce thinks that being in pain or having a symptom is just part of having a job. It's just expected that that's how they're gonna feel at their job. So we're seeing all this, and what you have to understand is that all of these statistics have to do with sitting, right, and having a job where you're in front of a computer. But we see the same symptoms showing up in people who are teachers, people that commute a lot, people that are driving for a living, people that are doing construction, even service industry, stay-at-home moms and dads, because throughout our day we develop these patterns, and we do the same patterns day after day after day, and we're creating these repetitive stresses on our body. So how you work, how you live your life, right, is progressively and consistently breaking down your physical structure, right? And it's breaking down what that structure protects, your nerve system, right? It's creating a physical stress. And so tonight we're talking a lot about physical stress, but there's also the emotional stress and the mental stress, the chemical stress from a toxic, deficient lifestyle associated with 40 to 50 or more hours a week that, where we're spending our time in these stressful environments. Very contradictory to how we evolved and developed to be able to move and to express ourselves actively, right? So there's a time and a place for us to talk about those emotional and mental issues related to stress. Tonight we're just going to focus on the physical, okay? But ultimately, all those things will affect our nerve system and how well our nerve system is functioning, right? So your nerve system, as you guys should know by now, is your master system, right? So your brain controls what? What's to control? Everything. Everything. Your brain controls everything. Your brain is in constant communication with all of these tissues, right? All of these organs, all of these organ systems, and all of these systems are always talking back to your brain. And all of that communication, it takes place across these nerves, right? It's that exchange of information that keeps you functioning properly. It's how your body heals. It's digesting the lunch that you had today. It's bringing essential amino acids where they need to go. It's bringing fatty acids where they need to go. It's maintaining your temperature. It's maintaining your pH, your muscle tone. It's maintaining your posture. Right? It's healing you as you sit here. It will heal you as you sleep tonight. It will wake you up in the morning. You've never had to think of one breath, one drop of blood pumping through your bloodstream all day, every day of your life because of your nerve system. It's magnificent, right? And so all that information that keeps you healthy and healing travels across these nerves. And your spine here, your structure here, this is designed to last a lifetime and to protect your nerve system throughout a lifetime as long as all the structures are in a proper position, right? So if you look at a spine from the back or from the front here, right, it should be nice and straight, right? Straight up and down is strong, and we always tell kids it's like a plastic straw. Okay, so if you had a plastic straw and you push down on that straw and it's straight, it should be relatively strong, right? But if there's any bend in that straw, what happens? It fails, right? It fails. So straight is strong. And when you look at the spine from the side, you see this beautiful series of curves in the spine, right? So these curves act like a shock absorber. Okay, so a spine is made up of 24 bones and 24 joints. So each joint is made up of a bone, a disc, and a bone. Okay, and so the discs are spacers. So a lot of people think that a disc is a shock absorber, but it's not. The curves of the spine are the shock absorber. So biomechanically, this is how your spine should look. But when we're born, we're relatively straight. We're born, we're relatively C-shaped like this. And when you bring a baby home, or shortly after, and you're comfortable putting them on the ground, what's the first thing the baby's going to want to do? Lift up the head, right? You've been paying attention. Lift up the head so they can look around and see where they're going. And that helps to develop this cervical curve in the neck. And then they're going to want to crawl after you, right? And they drop their belly down into a push-up position, and they start to crawl. And that helps to develop this lumbar curve, or this lower curve. And you stand that body up, and you have this beautiful series of curves. Okay, so this curve system, biomechanically, this is the shock absorber of the spine. And it's important because it protects these discs. Now, the discs aren't shock absorbers. The discs are spacers, and they provide room for these nerve roots to leave the spine, right? So these are the nerve roots that go off and to feed your body, right? They go off to all the tissues and organs. So you need a good, healthy disc, fat and parallel, to provide space for these nerve roots to serve the spine. And as long as this structure is functioning well and everything's in a proper position, this works really well, unless there's trauma or some type of stress that affects the structure of the spine. All right, now, trauma to the spine makes sense to everybody, right? Like a car accident, right? Or a football tackle, right? Or even a slip and a fall, right? That makes sense. That's going to stress the spine. But what we see much more commonly, and what the statistics and the research shows, is that our lifestyle stress, our poor postures, the way that we're working, the way that we're sleeping, all these things are stressing our structure, okay? And they're creating a lot of stress, and they're interfering with that normal flow of those nerves out to all the organs in your body. And so what do we do to our spines all day, all right? What do we do? You know, normally we wake up in the morning and we're lying on our stomach, right? And we have to turn our head so that we can breathe, right? And that takes the curve out of the neck. And then we're lying on our back and we've got 2 pillows propping our head up. And then we get up, right? And we go downstairs and we eat our breakfast. And we get in our car, right? And we get in our car and we drive to work, okay? So we drive to work and we all live in Massachusetts, right? So traffic is kind of stressful. Same to you, buddy, right? And so we drive to work and we sit in our nice comfy chairs at our computer, right? And we're sitting at our computer most of the day, leaning over the desk, banging our heads against the screen, right? Saying hi to people, getting up occasionally, but getting back down to that computer. And around 3 o'clock comes around and you're a little bit tired. So you might even take a nap on the desk. Right? And so we get back up and we drive home. And when we get home, you know, we have dinner. And then we either get back, usually having dinner, these days checking our smartphone while we're having dinner, and then going back onto the laptop on our couch. And then we fall asleep on the couch watching TV. And so look at the spine, right? It looks nothing like it's supposed to look, right? Nothing like it. And we wonder why people are having so many problems. All that lifestyle stress creates a problem in our spine. It creates stress to our structure. So, you know, how many pictures are you up here? Can you find yourself up here? Does this look like your day? You know, all this lifestyle stress, the postures from our work, how we're spending our hours are creating trauma to our spine repetitively, all day, every day. And all that trauma creates a problem called subluxation. Okay? Now, subluxation is when one of these spinal bones is out of its healthy alignment. And that creates damage to the soft tissue here, the disc. And when the soft tissue is damaged, you'll get swelling or inflammation. And then you'll have irritation of the nerve root because of that swelling. So the disc gets inflamed and it irritates the nerve root. And then you'll experience muscle spasms. So, Sister Maria, is your body smart or stupid?
Smart.
It's smart, right? Your body is smart. It's very smart. So when you have nerve irritation because of joints out of alignment and unstable, and there's tissue damage creating swelling, irritating that nerve and interrupting the flow of that healthy information across those nerves, your very smart body tightens those muscles up and it acts like a splint or a brace to stabilize those joints, right? Does that make sense? And so what happens? We get told to take painkillers and we get told to take muscle relaxers, right? In case if you're feeling that way. And what does that mean? That means that you're taking away the guarding mechanism that's preventing you from doing more damage and tearing up these tissues. Or you're taking away the warning signs that this position's not right and this position's not right. And maybe you should just lie down and rest, right? So we have muscle spasms and joint fixation. Okay, so joint fixation is when one of these joints is not moving through its healthy range of motion. And when you have joint fixation, it causes lost imbibition. Now, so lost imbibition means that there's no healthy flow of fluid to the disc that keeps the disc healthy and the tissues fit. So when you have joint fixation, you lose imbibition. And imbibition is basically brings nutrients to a disc and it cleanses toxins from the joint. Okay, so we lose that. And when you have nerve irritation, you end up with stress hormone production. So nerve irritation creates a stress response in the body. And so things like epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, all these stress hormones are produced. So subluxation creates a stress response in your body. So what causes subluxation? What we've been talking about, our lives, right? But tonight, the physical stresses of our bad habits. So this is what we're seeing. Everybody looks like this. Everybody looks like this at their desk, in front of their laptop, on their couch, right? And it starts here and it ends up here. I mean, this just seems ridiculous, but I see people like this, you know, and you see it worse in kids, right? So it starts here and ends up here. And if you look, this is what a healthy body should look like. So this is a human being, right? And if you look at this posture, we see ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. The eyes are straight forward, right? And your head weighs about 12 pounds. So as your head starts to drift forward, imagine a computer monitor here or a smartphone or texting. Imagine that here. For every inch forward that the head moves, it doubles the amount of stress at the base of the cervical spine. Okay, so like if I picked up like this kettlebell, right, and so I hold this up overhead, right, I could probably hold it here for a little while. It's not too heavy, right? But as soon as I start to move it forward, you know, an inch forward, 2 inches forward, you know, my body starts to shake 3 inches forward. Imagine what that does, right? It fails, right? It's the same thing that's going on here. As that head moves forward, imagine what it's doing to the spinal cord here, right? Remember what's inside of that spine, right? So imagine what's happening there. And so what happens is something needs to hold your head up. And so you start to get muscle tension in the thoracic spine and the extensor group. So Dr. Franson always does this. I think it's fun, so I'll do it too. So reach over and grab the head of the person next to you. And it's better if you don't know them. Grab the back of their head, right? So there's a ridge right at the base of your skull called the nuchal ridge, right? And all the extensor group muscles attach right up to the base of your skull. Okay, so they attach right up there. And they come down the skull and they support your head and they support your thoracic spine. And so with this leaning over a computer monitor or leaning over a laptop or a desk all day long, we're constantly straining those muscles because they're trying to keep our shoulders back and our heads back, right? But we're working against them. And they're constantly firing. They're firing all day long. Their shoulders are rounded and your body is trying to pull up and these extensor groups are just firing like crazy, right? And so, you know, what is that causing? You know, that a nation of slumped shoulders, right? And those muscles become tight and they feel like rope or they feel like wood, right? So these ergonomics are creating this type of stress. So with shoulder slumping, we've created from basically a nation of shoulder slumpers, from typing, you know, sitting at laptops, staring at a screen a couple inches in front of us, right? A nation of shoulder slumping. And what that means is that your shoulders, instead of being down and back and retracted, are now protracted, which means that your shoulders are sliding, your shoulder blades are sliding forward. So from this position, your shoulder blades are sliding forward, right? And you'll see that the shoulder joint becomes unstable and you get tight pectoralis muscles. So the muscles in the front of your chest become tightened, right? So ideally, your shoulders should be down and back, right? But imagine when you roll your shoulders, you see how that changes your posture. So I want you guys to try something for me. So reach out in front of you as far as you can, and you feel how when you reach out in front of you, your shoulders slide apart, right? And they spread out. And now keep your shoulders like that, or bring your arms to your side like you're going to do an overhead press, and try and push your arms up over your head. How high can you go? It's a little bit difficult, right, if you're keeping your shoulder blades forward like that. Now bring your arms back. Put your arms out in front of you, and now squeeze your shoulder blades back and behind you, arms by your side, and now push overhead. Do you feel the difference? See how much easier it is, right? Because your shoulder blades are supposed to be back like that. That prevents you from bumping into connective tissue, and it keeps your shoulder stable. As those shoulder blades start to move forward, you lose the structural integrity of your shoulder. Okay, and so now you're subluxated because now your head and your body are also weighing you down and your shoulders are pulling forward and it subluxates your thoracic spine. So you have stress in your thoracic spine, and we see things like shoulder pain because of this. We see neck pain, headaches, and even fatigue. So if you imagine your posture slumping forward like this all day long, what that does to your lung capacity and how it affects your respiration, right? And so if you've got decreased respiration all day long, what happens around 3 or 4 o'clock? Right? You're not getting oxygen to your body starts to get fatigued. So this is what we call shoulder slumping. Now with typing strain, so reach out in front of you with one arm and grab your forearm with your other hand. And I want you to wiggle your fingers like you're typing, right? Okay, can you feel all the tendons moving inside your arm? Right, there's a network of tendons and connective tissue and muscles in there that support your fingers in your arm while you're typing, okay? And so that network can get gummed up. You know, you're spending 40 hours a week typing away, but come on, more like 50, you know, typing away at something. That repetitive strain, that fine motor movement, something that we were never really designed to do, can gum up that network, and you start to get inflammation and swelling in those tendons. And that will put pressure on those nerves down into your forearm and your hand and your wrist. And we'll see symptoms like carpal tunnel syndrome, cramping of the hands and the arm, and wrist pain and arm pain. All right, all because of that repetitive use and the slumping of the shoulders and our improper posture. And then we have sitting stress. Okay, so these are legs. It might be a little hard to tell, but these are legs, right? So this is your leg from the front. So these are your quad muscles here, your quadriceps muscles, and right up here is the bottom of something called the iliopsoas. And on the back here, so these are flexor muscles. These are the ones that flex the hip, all right? And from the back here, this is your gluteus maximus, and these are your hamstrings. So these are extensor muscles, right? So we spend all day sitting down, right? And so when you sit all day, you're constantly shortening these flexor muscles, right? And they're shortened and they become overactive. If you shorten a muscle over a long period of time, it becomes overactive and it gets tight and stiff. So we're shortening all these hip flexor muscles. And at the same time, we're lengthening the muscles that are extensors. So if you're lengthening the hamstrings and the glutes, and they become weakened and they become inactive. So I promise all of you who are sitting all day long, you've got inactive, weak glutes and hamstrings and a weak extensor. And what that creates is an imbalance in our quads and our flexor muscles and then in our extensor muscles. And then what we see is we start to see things like low back pain and restless leg syndrome and sciatic pain, right? So, and again, all because of our postures, and we're not doing anything to counteract that. We are basically, we were never designed to sit for long periods of time, and we've made it easy for us by creating chairs that provide some comfort. But all it's done is it's made it easy for us to do things that aren't natural, and we're seeing the consequences because of that. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? We move, right? We need to move. We were designed to reach, to stretch, to stand. We were designed to move. So you have to listen to your body. Sit or stand, whatever it demands, you need to do it. You listen to your body. And as Dr. Franson often says, that if it's not moving, does anybody know?
Dying.
It's dying, right? So if it's not moving, it's dying. Movement is essential. Do you know that movement creates endorphins in your body? So that means it makes you feel better. Movement creates something called encephalins in your body, which means that it minimizes pain. Movement moves nutrients and oxygen through your body. Movement cleanses toxins from your body. So movement is essential for our physical, our social, our mental well-being. We need to move. Okay, so the ergonomic equation, all right? So the ergonomic equation, what you have to understand is ergonomics is actually quite simple if you think about it. You just need to listen to your body's experience. Use that as your basis. What is my body experiencing right now? Use that as your basis, and ergonomics is quite simple. So the ergonomic equation looks at a neutral posture plus voluntary motion plus rest, or rest time, is going to equal workplace wellness. So unfortunately, many of us look like this because we've fatigued the structure for so long that people will say, well, it's hard for me, it's uncomfortable to sit up straight, like it's just easier to relax. Well, that's because we've been sitting and stretching those muscles for so long, we don't have the strength anymore to bring our shoulders back and to bring our heads back. And so we end up looking like this. But we need to be sitting in a neutral posture. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a list of tips or things you can take to your workstation with you, so you don't need to write everything down, but you'll take that home and it'll give you some information about how to set up your workstation at home or at work. But we need a neutral posture. And so starting at the feet, what that means is that your feet are either on the floor, it depends how long your legs are, or they're on a footrest. And when you go up to the knees, you should see a 90-degree angle or slightly more. And the back of the chair, or the front of the chair, should be a few inches from the knee, because otherwise, if that chair is right up against your knee, it's going to interfere with the good circulation of that area of your body. At the hips, your hips should be rocked forward, so your pelvis forward, and they get a 90-degree angle, and your hips slightly higher than your knees or level. A good arch in your lower back, your arms relaxed by your side, your elbows at 90-degree angle, and your arms parallel with the floor. Now this is something that I think, this all makes sense, right? Oh yeah, this is obvious, right? one thing I notice is often with people and their keyboards is that everyone's got their arms neutral and then they've got their keyboard tipped up like that, right? Right, so you need to tip your keyboard the opposite direction. So you can put a wrist rest there or tip your keyboard down so that your hands are actually parallel. You don't want them cocked up. Or, a good typing instructor back in 6th grade probably taught you to let your hands float across the keyboard, right? Never to rest them down on the table. So you want to see that the arms and the hands are parallel with the keyboard. The neck has a good arch in it and the head up, and the eyes are pointing forward at the screen. Now the most important part is your eyes, because your eyes lead the body. All right? So where you want to keep everything within sight of your eyes, because as your eyes move, your body will move around it. The only thing I would disagree with this diagram is that the screen should be higher, because we see everyone looking at a screen and down. And we all know how important that curve is in our neck, right? So we want to establish that curve and maintain that curve. So when we look at a screen, we want to see that screen, basically the middle part of the screen level with your eyes, if not a little bit higher, so that you can be looking at the screen and lifting up and maintaining that curve in your neck and reconciling or working against everything else we're doing all day, which is the opposite direction, okay? So this is a neutral posture, right? Involuntary motion. So voluntary motion means, like we said, to move, right? So get up on regular intervals. For every hour that you're sitting, get up and move around for 5 minutes. Make sure that you're taking breaks. And then we have, because voluntary motion is going to help circulation. It's going to help improve your metabolism. And it's going to help prevent you from having static fatigue. So if you're in a static posture all day, your muscles are going to fatigue. So voluntary motion and movement will help to counteract that. And then rest. So resting your shoulders, resting your arms and wrists and hands, resting your legs, even resting your eyes. So even taking your hands and putting them over your eyes so that you can rest your eyes. Because a big part of workplace stress is eye strain, right? From staring at a screen and bright lights. So rest your eyes. Last thing I forgot to mention was the mouse. So we see all these people with this type of posture, right? Because they're reaching out for that mouse, right? All day long, reaching for that mouse. It's like, a quick draw, quick draw. Reaching for that mouse. So that mouse needs to be close to that keyboard, and a track pad, if possible, to help you from moving that arm way out and reaching way out. So the ergonomic equation. Ideally, this is great, right? Because it allows you to have neutral posture. You need to get up and have voluntary motion. You get up and have rest. But the best workplace situation would look like this. I was hoping to have one available to show you guys tonight. We will have a stand-up workstation in the office in the next couple of weeks that you can look at. And if you look at our great CAs, they already work at a stand-up workstation, right? And you see how much energy they have, right? They are the most energetic people you'll ever meet, right? It's because they're happy where they work, but also because they're moving around all day. If you're in a stand-up workstation, you are more likely to move. When you get sitting down in a desk chair, it's really easy to stay in that desk chair, right? So a stand-up workstation counteracts that. The postures are the same from the waist up. You're just standing. So it's something that you can easily create with filing cabinets. You don't need to go out and buy expensive equipment, but you can stack your filing cabinets. They even make an arm that swivels out for your keyboard, so you can stand in front and work on your keyboard and then slide it back down when you want to sit. So there's a lot of possibilities out there at Target, IKEA, and at Furniture Supply. But a stand-up workstation really helps you to move. And also for voluntary motion, I'm on that handout of all the top things to do to set up your workstation. On the other side are several exercises that you can do in your chair to help you to rest and to relax your tired muscles. Any questions on that? Yeah.
I have a question about the neck.
Yes.
I feel like every time I try to get my shoulders back or something, I feel like my sort of head's forward. And I always remembered in yoga they used to say to put this part up, which seems to me to tilt your head down, which seems like a little bit of the opposite of what you're saying.
So this part up here, up?
Yeah, like almost like that.
So you're basically bringing your chin in, right?
I
So,
think so.
I mean, it is unique to each person and what your structure looks like, but you want your head to be balanced over your shoulders. Okay, so if you have a forward head posture and you're constantly in a pattern of leaning forward over your shoulders and trying to get your shoulders back, it will still feel like your head is leaning forward, right? So it's a combination of supporting your lower spine, getting your hips underneath your shoulders first, and then from that having more of a stable base to support your neck. Tilting your chin in like this is going to stress all the muscles in those extensor muscles all day long. So in yoga, I believe it's almost like you're pulling up from the head, right? So that would actually lift your head up, but not necessarily tilt it down and back. Okay? Sure. So the stress solution. So get up and move, right? We talked about that. So how do you stretch these tight muscles and counteract what's going on with this tightness and this flexion dominant posture that we all have? We've got a wall stretch. It's basically you're standing against a wall, hand flat against the wall, and pushing your shoulder forward and into the wall, which is going to help to stretch out the pectoralis muscles and the upper arm and the forearm, right? And holding that for 30 to 60 seconds. The door stretch is very similar. You're holding your arms in a door jamb, leaning forward, again, stretching out those pectoralis muscles. So those are great, very simple, 30 to 60 seconds when you get up every hour to walk for 5 minutes. Stretching out your pectoralis muscles in your forearms, those will help to stretch out those muscles that you're tightening, right? But it's also really important that you begin to strengthen the muscles that you've been weakening all this time. And that's why we teach life extension exercises. So life is short, right? And all this learning about health is in an effort to extend our lives, right? So it's really important that we do life extension exercises. Dr. Mark is going to demonstrate to you guys some life extension exercises because I know it's time to stand up. We've been sitting for about a half hour.
So who's a guest here? Any guests? Some guests? Okay, great. So this is our gift to you guys, right? And back here, right? So this is going to extend your life. This is one of the best things that you can do throughout the day. And it's interesting sitting back there as Derek's presenting this. I see everybody's twiddling their fingers and moving their legs and their head, shoulders. Nobody sits perfectly still. Nobody. I can't even stand still back there watching this. So we constantly want to move. So this is one of the best things that you can do. So we recommend that you guys use these life extensions at least one time for every hour that you're sitting down. Okay? At least once for every hour that you're sitting down. It's going to get you up, get your heart rate going, and strengthen some of those muscles. Okay? So there's an acronym that we're going to use. It's you will love these. So U starts with a Y. So we're going to throw our hands way out here. You might need to make some room there so you don't flop each other in the head. Okay? So we're going to get out here in the Y, and what we want to do is take these hands and press those hands away from you. Okay? So don't just put them out there in space, but push them away and then get them back. Just like that. Good. So when you're standing here, what I want you to think about is getting that head back over your shoulders. That's good. Everybody should be smiling right now. Good. And then take a nice deep breath. Excellent. So that was about 20 seconds, right? You will. So we're going to go down into the W. And we're just going to put our elbows into our back pockets. Keep those hands out here to the side. So really trying to get those elbows down into your back pockets. Good. Maintaining a good, happy, upright posture. Heads back over your shoulders. Squeezing the bottom of those shoulder blades. Take a deep breath. Good. I'm losing some smiles. Come on. All right. You will love. We're going to drop down into an L. This is great for shoulder health as well. So we'll make sure that we get these hands back as far as we can. All right. Back as far as we can. Keep it a good posture. That's a half smile there. That's good. Heads back over your shoulders. Deep breath. Good. You will love these. So we're going to go out into the T. Oh, this one's great. Try to take those hands and just press them out as far as you can. Right? And then get them back out of your peripheral vision so you can't see your hands. Yeah, watch out for that person next to you. You might get a thumb in the cheek. All right. Heads back over the shoulders. Good. Nice deep breath. Excellent. So we got to end this with a high five. So way to go. Give your neighbor a high five. Appreciate you guys.
Good job.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. So you can feel when you're doing those exercises how it is strengthening those muscles in your back and counteracting all the stretching that we're doing all day long. So the other solution, a lot of people will say to me, so I don't have time, or I forget, or once I get to work and start working, I'm just in the zone and I can't seem to remember to get up and move. Well, most people have smartphones these days, and it's amazing what you can find on a smartphone. There's a million apps about ergonomics. There's one that you can pull up and actually put in your height and your weight, and it will calculate, the bend in your knees and how high your monitor should be and how high your laptop should be and your keyboard should be. There's also some there's a stand-up clock that will remind you on regular intervals to take short and long breaks. It just goes off. It's a clock. It just goes off. You set it, and it will remind you to get up. How simple is that? There's a repetitive strain indicator, which actually tracks the amount of time you're typing, and it will tell you when you need to take a rest. And finally, a text neck indicator. So text neck, does anyone know what that looks like? Right, text neck, right? So text neck indicator. When your phone is in a position that it's indicative that you're probably looking like this, an alarm will go off on your phone and indicate to you that you're at risk of developing text neck. So there's amazing things out there, right? My number one solution for a text neck, though, is using your armpit. And take your hand and put it in your armpit and then read your text messages. It's quite a bit different than this, right? So text neck indicator. So, making these changes, it's not very difficult, right? It's going to require discipline. This is a behavior modification. It takes some knowledge, which we're giving and what you're getting, and it's going to take a lot of discipline. But you're worth it, right? Your body is worth it. Think of this as an investment in yourself, in human capital, okay? Your body wants to help you. You just need to help it, okay? So it's basically just looking at how you're spending your day and starting to make small changes to counteract what you've been doing, okay? And trust your body. It will tell you what's wrong and what's right, and it wants help because it wants you to have a healthy and a long life, right? So, and that's your job. That's your job. So your job is to listen to your body. As I asked before, are you listening to your body? Are you listening to what it's saying to you? Because your job is to listen to it so you can start to break these bad habits that are creating this stress on your structure, okay? Breaking these habits that are creating these problems and developing into these symptoms and body signals that we're experiencing, okay? So that's your job, okay? Our job is to reconcile what you've been doing to your body all this time, okay? Our job is to help your body handle this lifestyle stress better, okay? As a chiropractor, as a health coach, that's our job. And so how do we know if you've got stress or nerve irritation or subluxation in your spine? We use 5 specific objective criteria, okay? We use instrumentation, which is basically an instrument that helps to identify inflammation in your spine. You remember that inflammation that irritates those nerves, right? So it's like a stud finder. We run it along your spine. We call it a scope. We use motion palpation. So it would make sense to you that a normal healthy joint should move through its ranges of motion normally, right? And if there's any dysfunction in that joint, it's not going to move properly, right? So we use motion palpation to identify improper motion and dysfunction in the structure. And we use static palpation. So it's like I tell people it's like a bruise on an apple. Everyone, picture an apple and how you feel that bruise, and you put that one back, right? So, or on a cantaloupe. So we use our fingers to palpate along your spine, and we're feeling for inflammation on your spine. And then we use X-ray, of course, and visualization. So visualization is awesome, especially when you talk about ergonomics. So it makes sense to you guys that a healthy body is well balanced, right? So when you look at a posture, you see that the eyes are level over the shoulders level over the hips, and the spine is straight up and down, right? And that's our strongest position, right? So your body is very smart. Smart. Your body is smart, right? So when you have nerve irritation, what's it going to do?
Shift.
It's going to shift. It's going to try and lean or twist or turn away from that irritated nerve, right? Functionally, what it's trying to do is it's trying to make room so that nerve can breathe and it can feed your body and it can help heal your body, right? So you'll see shifts in posture, postural deviations away from normal, Okay, and so that's a very powerful tool that we use to look for indicators of nerve irritation. Just imagine if, I came to your office and looked at how you were sitting at work, what would that show us about what you're leaning away from, right? Just tomorrow when you go to work, you're totally going to change the way that you're sitting, right? And so that's actually something that we do. We actually go to businesses in the North Shore and the local area, and we do ergonomic assessments so that we can help employers, but most importantly, employees, have less stress on their structure during their workday. So we're uniquely qualified to perform those types of assessments and give feedback and instruction about how to reduce physical stresses during the day. So if that's something that you'd be interested in us coming and checking out your workstation or where you work, we'd be happy to do that for you. Dr. Mark is in charge of that, so just talk to him about that afterwards. And if you've never had your posture checked, please make sure you do that before you leave tonight. We'd be happy to do that for you, okay? So don't wait. It'd be interesting to see if your body is leaning away from anything, okay? And so how do you correct subluxation? How do we reconcile this stress we put on our structure? We look at health as a three-legged stool, right? And so that first leg of the stool is specific chiropractic adjustments in rhythm. So with our hands, we reposition the joint back into a healthy alignment and retrain it to stay in that alignment over time. Gently, specifically restoring that joint back into a better, a healthier alignment so that the inflammation comes down, right? The pressure comes off the nerves, and that nerve is free to function at 100% and to feed the body so the body can heal itself and run itself, okay? And we do that in rhythm so that we can get ahead of these lifestyle stresses, right? And so that your body can continue to heal and to function. Breaking the bad habits is the second leg, and we've talked a lot about what those bad habits are, right? If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting, right? So we don't want to just be shoveling sand against the tide, as Dr. Franson likes to say, right? So we need to break the habits that are creating these subluxation patterns, and so we teach you that in consultations and in workshops like this, and constantly yelling at you if we see you sitting out there with your legs crossed or slouching in your chair, right? So we break these bad habits that are promoting your subluxation patterns. And then exercises to strengthen. So we've been sitting in this posture for years, right? Not moving for years. So there's going to be breakdown and there's going to be atrophy. And so we need to strengthen the muscles and the soft tissues around those subluxations so that you can have better stability there and hold your adjustments better. Right? So you have more strength, because it's all about how well you hold your adjustments. Right? The longer you hold your adjustments, the more your body is healing and moving forward and healthier. Right? So I want you guys to remember how amazing you are. You were designed to have a high output. You were designed to have an enormous amount of energy. Your spine and your nerve system and that structure was designed to last a lifetime up to 120 years, right? So rather than coming home at the end of the day exhausted mentally and physically and really not enjoying home because you've been working so hard, just remember that there are changes that you can make and we can help you make so you can enjoy your work more and especially enjoy being home more and have a longer and a healthier quality of life, okay? So definitely share that information with other people. Tell people that you love that there are, this is what is happening from our chronic, deficient, inactive lifestyles, but there's so much possibility to change that, okay? So please share that information. And next month, I just want to let you know, so I have this up here to remind me, next month, our body signals workship, we're going back to school, right? Kids are going back to school. So next month, we're going to be talking about children and their health, specifically ADD and ADHD is going to be the topic next month. So if you know anybody who has children or a family or even teachers, please let them know about that workshop. It will be in early September. We'll let you know when that date is. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be given by just a blessed speaker, someone who's great at speaking. And I think you'll really enjoy it, but I think it's information that we really need to share. So thank you for sitting all night. Yes?
I was just wondering, what about backpacks?
So backpacks, yes.
Backpacks
So
sometimes are like.
yes, August. So next Monday, for the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing backpack screenings here in the office. So if you have any children, have them come in, bring their backpack. We will check their backpack, make sure they're wearing it correctly, make sure they're not putting too much weight in it. Actually, it's going to be a competition. So how much weight should you put in a backpack? Does anybody know? So you shouldn't have more than 15% of your body weight in a backpack. So we're going to have a competition. So we're going to have kids fill up their backpack and try and get it within 15% of their body weight. If they're within 1 pound, they win a gift certificate to buy some school supplies. So yes, the next 2 weeks we'll be talking about that, and there'll be articles about that. So good question. So I love and appreciate you all. I hope you learned something tonight, and I hope you don't hate me too much when you try and sit differently tomorrow. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to stick around and answer this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions, good. Oh, so I have these handouts for all you guys. Someone had a question. Yes.
So if you're specifically having problems with low back problems,
Yes.
sitting all day,
Yes.
Thank you.
is that,
So,
what do you do to specifically correct that?
so it
Is it
really depends. So I would look at your chair. So the important part of the chair is that it's adjustable, right? So that you want to be able to adjust the seat forward and back, and whether or not it's angled. So the actual seat pan. And then the backrest, you want to be able to adjust that up and down and also angle forward and back. And then the armrests, you want to be able to adjust those up and down as well. No armrest. That might be, so it's like a task chair?
It's,
Okay. So the first thing I would say, the easiest solution I would say is lumbar support. So if there's no lumbar support, then a rolled towel to help to support your lower back.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when you're sitting in a chair, you're getting tired and you lose that pelvic or that lumbar curve, and you start to stretch out those muscles in the lower back. That'd be the first thing. Second thing I would look at is how your knees and the thighs are resting on the seat pan. And then a third thing I would look at, maybe the second thing, would be the strength of your lower back, and really working on strengthening your core so that you have more ability to sit for that length of time.
I only do it 2 days a week, but
Yeah, it bothers you.
brutal. So, like, I don't want to sit anymore.
So maybe you can stand?
You mean at work?
Really?
No,
No?
it's not I mean, I get up and walk around a lot because,
It bothers you.
yeah.
So getting up and moving more, and then see if you can get some sort of lumbar support there.
Yeah, okay.
Yes?
And then lower back pain, getting in and out of the car,
Yes?
and also sitting in the car for lengths of time where you can support your lower back. So those there's a pillow that's like an arch pillow. Are those good for like a lower back support?
They help. They help. The issue with those is that generally they're supporting your iliums or your hip bones, right? So generally those arch supports, they'll give you some arch support here, but they're also pushing against these two bones here, right? And they're pushing them forward, right? So that's actually creating a strain in the lower back. When you have a low back support, you really want something, Dr. Franson always says, get a rolled up t-shirt, right? Or some tube socks, some old 1980s tube socks, and roll those up, and you really want them about the size of a grapefruit, and you want them right up here against the sacrum, okay, giving you support right at the sacrum and not pushing against these two bones here. They're called your PSISs, okay? So that's one thing. And then getting in and out of the car, that's a great question. So a lot of times people, when they get into a seat, they just kind of step in and fall into the seat, right? When you're young, it's a lot easier to do that, but it's not smart to do it at any age. You really should turn, sit down into the seat, and then swing your legs into the car, and the same for getting out. Because your bodies weren't designed to twist and to reach at the same time, our lumbar spine, and so you're stressing and tearing up those tissues when you're doing that.
And the tube sock or whatever, that support, so it's round versus like
Yeah,
the
'cause
size of a grapefruit, so you just kind
You
of.
want it to be right up against your sacrum, your tailbone, and in between those two. So if you feel in your back, you can feel those bumps,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you'll see a dimple there, right? So
That's
those two,
where it
those are
hurts.
these, yeah, so you want it to sit right between those two bumps.
your legs away from the chair? Not like this.
Yeah, so you want to be like that is
Yeah.
better, and so that's why it's helpful to have some sort of lumbar support there, because it does get tiring through the day.
Is there a way to do ab exercises without having your neck in a bad position?
Yes.
Are you going to show
Yes.
one or not?
Then you show
Well, I mean,
it
there's a
off.
lot of spine-sparing ab exercises. But why are you trying to do ab exercises? For the beach or for health?
Tool of an ab. No, just strengthening.
Okay, so strengthening. So when you, because abdominal exercises are, people call them a core exercise, right? But when you strengthen your core, you want to strengthen the abdominal muscles as well as the muscles in the back, right? So exercises like squatting and planking are going to help to stabilize those core muscles. So you can do a plank and you're not going to strain your neck, core. So full body movements that are requiring all your abdominal muscles, your balance muscles, you're going to strengthen that. So you could even do balancing on a ball. There's a whole a million Swiss ball exercises you can do to stabilize your core muscles and your abdominals. You can even do, like when you do a sit-up, you don't have to do sit-ups like the presidential challenge that we used to do in gym class, right? Where you came all the way up. You can lie on your back and just engage your abdominal muscles just enough to raise you up an inch off the floor. You're getting just as much work in that lower abdominal. But I would do more full body movements too. Burpees are great. You know what a burpee is? Oh.
Sorry.
Should we?
No.
Nah. I'll show. So set up a consultation and we'll go over some specific exercises, and Dr. Mark will show you a burpee.
What's
We have to do
planking?
it together.
Planking. Planking, yes, sure. So planking is are we still on video? Planking was a fad in about 6 months ago where you would lie in a straight position and people would take pictures. Planking is kind of like a yoga pose, and you're in push-up position on your toes and your hands, and you basically tighten your glute muscles and tighten your core muscles, and you hold that. That's a plank. You can also do it down on your elbows, right? And so that's a plank as well.
Okay, thank you.
And eventually you start to shake. That'd be a good exercise.